It was a cloudy morning. People were gathering inside the courtroom. Lawyers were busy with papers. A few reporters sat quietly in the back. Everyone was waiting for the case to begin. Suddenly, the doors opened. A tall black man walked in, wearing an old suit and holding a small folder. His steps were slow but confident. The room turned to look. Some people whispered. Others smirked. Is that the guy? He doesn't even have a lawyer. What is he thinking? The man was Malik Johnson. Malik walked straight to the defendant's table and sat down. The judge, a white man in his 60s, looked over his glasses and raised an eyebrow. Mr. Johnson, where is your attorney? Malik stood up politely. Your Honor, I'll be representing myself. There was a short silence. Then someone at the back let out a small laugh. Even the judge smiled. You're going to defend yourself in a criminal case? Yes, sir. The judge leaned back. Well, this should be interesting. The prosecutor, Mr. Lane, stood confidently. He had years of experience. He looked at Malik like he was already guilty. Your Honor, we are ready to proceed. The judge nodded. Malik sat calmly. His eyes didn't show fear. He had prepared for this moment for a long time. The charges were serious. Malik was accused of stealing from a local company where he used to work. The company claimed he hacked their system and transferred money. But Malik knew the truth. He didn't do it. And now he had to prove it, alone. As the first witness was called, Malik listened carefully. It was the company's security officer. He talked about computer records, passwords, and login times. He said the system was accessed using Malik's ID. When it was Malik's turn to question him, he stood slowly, walked to the front, and asked in a calm voice, Sir, do you know how many people had access to the system? Just 5, including you. Malik nodded. And were any of those people ever investigated? No, only you. Why? The officer looked confused. Because your ID was used. Malik paused. And can you say for sure that IDs can't be copied? The officer hesitated. Well, they can be, but it's not common. Malik smiled slightly. But possible? Yes. The judge looked up from his notes. That answer changed something. Later, when the company manager was on the stand, Malik asked, Did you check the security camera on the night of the incident? We didn't have access to the footage. Malik opened his folder and pulled out a paper. This is an email from your IT team. It says the camera was working that night. The manager blinked. The judge leaned forward. Is this real? Malik nodded. Yes, Your Honor. I got it through a data request. I followed the legal process. The courtroom was silent. The judge looked at Malik again. His eyes were no longer mocking. They were curious. During the break, people started whispering. Again. But this time, it was different. He's not just some guy. He knows what he's doing. Where did he learn all that? Malik sat quietly on a bench in the hallway, eyes closed, breathing slowly. He remembered the nights, in a prison cell years ago, the long hours reading law books, the promise he made to himself. Next time I'll be ready. When court resumed, Malik walked up to the screen and asked to present his evidence. The judge allowed it. Malik clicked on a video, a short black and white. Security footage began to play. It showed someone sitting at a computer, but it wasn't Malik. The person's face wasn't fully clear, but the body type was different. The timestamp matched the night of the crime. The courtroom gasped. The judge raised his hand. Pause the video. He looked directly at Malik. Where did you get this? From the building's backup server. It was hidden, but I know how to look. The judge stared for a moment, then said quietly, We'll need to take a closer look at this. As Malik sat down, he saw the prosecutor's hands shaking. The judge's voice was more serious now. The courtroom was no longer laughing. They were listening, they were watching. Because this man, the one they thought was a joke, had just taken control of the courtroom, and the truth was only beginning to unfold. The courtroom was still buzzing. After the break, people no longer looked at Malik Johnson the same way. They weren't laughing now. They were curious. Who was this man? How did he know the law so well? The prosecutor, Mr. Lane, sat quietly, flipping through his notes. He wasn't smiling anymore. Even the judge had stopped calling this case simple. But, while others were wondering, Malik was remembering. He was remembering a time when no one believed in him. 10 years earlier, Malik sat in a cold prison cell, wrongfully accused, wrongfully jailed. He had trusted the system once, but the system had failed him. So one day he walked up to the prison library. "Do you have any books on law?" The guard laughed but pointed to a dusty corner. Malik picked up the first book, then the second, then the third. Months turned into years. Malik read every day. He studied court cases. He wrote letters. He made notes. Other inmates mocked him. "You think books will get you out?" But Malik didn't stop. And one day, something changed. He found a case that was similar to his own. It had been overturned by a technical rule in the law. He filed his own motion, and after weeks of silence, a judge reopened his case. 6 months later, Malik walked out of prison, free. But the world outside had changed. No one wanted to hire him. No one cared about the truth. They only saw a man with a criminal record. So, Malik made a decision. If no one helps me, I'll help myself. And one day I'll help others too. Present day back in the courtroom, the trial continued. The prosecutor brought up more witnesses, but Malik stayed calm. He asked simple questions, clear questions, questions that made people uncomfortable, and slowly the cracks began to show. During a break, a young woman from the courtroom approached him. "Sir, I just wanted to say you're brave. What you're doing is inspiring." Malik nodded kindly. "Thank you. But I'm not trying to inspire, I'm just trying to survive." That evening, a small article appeared online. "Self-taught man challenges legal system alone and wins round 1." People began sharing it. Some saw Malik as a hero, others saw him as a threat. The next day, Malik stood outside the courtroom, early. The sun was barely up. He looked tired, but he also looked focused. Inside, a man in a suit waited for him. "Mr. Johnson?" "Yes. I'm a retired lawyer. I read about your case. I just wanted to say, you're doing a great job." Malik smiled. "Thank you, sir." The lawyer looked around. "Need any advice?" Malik thought for a moment. Then he nodded. "I'll never say no to good advice." In court, the judge seemed different today. More serious. Less smug. Malik began to present his own timeline of events. He used emails, documents, and timestamps. His voice was steady. "Your Honor, I didn't just come here to defend myself. I came here to expose the truth." At the end of the day, the judge looked at both sides. This case is far from over. But one thing is clear. Mr. Johnson is no ordinary man. The courtroom buzzed, people whispered, and the headlines started, growing louder. Who is Malik Johnson? Why does he know the law so well? What is he really trying to uncover? That night, Malik walked home under the streetlights. He passed quiet shops and closed restaurants. But his mind was busy, not with fear, but with focus. Because the more they doubted him, the more they would listen when the truth finally exploded. Malik didn't want revenge. He didn't want fame. He wanted justice, not just for himself, but for anyone who had ever been silenced. The third day of the trial began with tension in the air. Malik Johnson arrived early, holding a new folder in his hand. He looked calm but determined. His eyes scanned the courtroom, not with fear, but with purpose. Reporters were now sitting in every corner. A few people from the neighborhood had come too, just to watch. Everyone wanted to see what the man without a lawyer would do next. Even the judge. who had once laughed at Malik, seemed quieter today. The prosecutor, Mr. Lane, looked restless. He stood to call a witness, Officer Brent, the police officer who arrested Malik. The courtroom became silent. Malik watched the officer carefully. "State your name and position," Mr. Lane said. "Officer Thomas Brent. I work with the City Police, Cyber Crimes Division." The questioning began. The officer explained how he got a report from the company. He said they tracked the cyber theft back to Malik's login ID. Mr. Lane looked pleased, but when it was Malik's turn to speak, everything changed. Malik stood up slowly. He picked up his file, walked to the center, and faced Officer Brent. "Officer," he began in a steady voice, "how long have you worked in cyber crimes?" "6 years," the officer replied. "And in those 6 years, have you ever seen cases where login credentials were stolen?" "Yes. It happens sometimes." "So, you agree it's possible for someone else to use my login ID?" Officer Brent paused. "Yes, it's possible." A few heads in the courtroom turned. Malik stepped forward. "Did you check the building's CCTV footage on the night I was accused?" "No, that wasn't my department." Malik nodded. Then he asked, "Did you examine the laptop that was used for the theft?" "No." "The company gave us screenshots." Malik walked back to his desk. He picked up a printed sheet and held it up. "This is a digital report I requested myself. It shows that the stolen files were accessed using a remote desktop, not a direct login," the courtroom murmured. Even the judge leaned forward slightly. Malik continued. "That means someone could have accessed it from outside. Someone with the password, or someone who hacked it." Officer Brent looked uncomfortable now. The judge cleared his throat. "Mr. Johnson, are you submitting this as evidence?" "Yes, Your Honor, and I have more." He placed several more papers on the table. The courtroom was full again. Every seat was taken. Some people even stood in the back. They weren't just watching a trial now, they were watching a story unfold. Malik Johnson, the man who walked in alone with no lawyer, had already surprised everyone. Now, people were asking, what's he going to do next? The judge entered, looking tired but alert. The bailiff called the court to order. Malik stood, holding a folder that looked heavier than before. The judge spoke. "Mr. Johnson, do you have any new evidence today?" Malik nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. But more than that, I have a truth that was hidden." The judge looked curious. Even the prosecutor sat up straighter. Malik turned toward the court and said, "I want to talk about the real reason I was blamed. And to do that, I need to reveal something personal." He took a deep breath and began. 2 years ago, I applied for a promotion at the company. I had the experience, the skills, and the best performance record, but I didn't get the job. He paused. Instead, it went to someone who had only been there 6 months. Whispers began around the room. I asked why. Malik continued. "They told me, you're just not the right fit." He opened a file and pulled out an internal company email. This is from the hiring manager to HR. It says, "Let's keep the team looking clean and professional." He looked at the judge. "Clean and professional. What do you think that means, Your Honor?" The judge shifted in his chair. Malik walked slowly toward the screen in the courtroom. He showed a company photo. 5 team members. All smiling. All white. Malik's name was missing. I was the only black employee in that department. And after I asked questions, strange things began to happen. He showed another document, an IT report showing his account was accessed. From someone else's computer? They didn't just want me out, they wanted me to look like a criminal. The judge raised his hand. "Mr. Johnson, are you saying this was planned?" Malik nodded. "Yes. I believe this was an inside job, and I believe someone high up made me the scapegoat." The judge looked at the prosecutor. "Mr. Lane, did your team investigate any of this?" Mr. Lane looked stunned. "No, Your Honor. This was not part of the report given to us. Suddenly, the courtroom doors opened. A woman walked in, well-dressed, nervous. She went straight to the witness stand. Malik turned. "This is Ms. Clara Reese, former HR manager at the company. She quit 6 months ago." Gasps spread through the room. The judge looked surprised. "Did you request her to testify?" "No, sir. She came on her own." Ms. Reese raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth, and sat down. Her voice shook slightly. I came here because I saw the news, and I couldn't stay quiet anymore." She looked at Malik, then at the judge. "He's telling the truth. I saw the email. I know about the decision to remove him quietly." She held up a flash drive. "This has internal messages. Things I was told to delete. But I saved them, because I knew someday this would matter." The courtroom fell into complete silence. The judge looked shaken. He took off his glasses and stared at the flash drive in the bailiff's hand. Malik sat down quietly. He had not shouted. He had not begged. He had simply told the truth and let the facts speak for themselves. The judge cleared his throat. "We will review this new evidence immediately. This court will take a recess until tomorrow morning." Everyone stood up. As Malik walked out, dozens of eyes followed him. People no longer saw a man on trial. They saw a man uncovering something bigger than himself. Later that evening, Malik sat at home in a small apartment. He stared at the wall, quiet, not smiling. His hands were shaking now, not from fear, but from the weight of what had just happened. He had opened a door, and now the truth was spilling out. Not just about him, but about a system that tried to bury him, that underestimated him. But now, the world was listening. The next morning, something had changed. Malik Johnson didn't just walk into a courtroom. He walked into a storm. Outside the building, news vans were parked. Reporters held microphones. Cameras flashed as soon as Malik stepped out of his car. Some shouted his name. Some tried to ask questions, but Malik didn't speak. He simply walked through the crowd, calm, silent, focused. Inside the courtroom, the judge waited with a serious face. Even the prosecutor looked nervous. The room was full, again, but now everyone knew this wasn't just about one man. This was about justice being tested. News headlines that morning. Man with no lawyer exposes company corruption in court. Who is Malik Johnson? The self-taught fighter for truth. HR whistleblower confirms racial bias, evidence hidden by employer. People all over the city, maybe the whole country, were watching now. As court began, the judge addressed the room. "Yesterday, we received a flash drive containing internal company messages. These messages appear to show intentional targeting of Mr. Johnson." He looked down at the papers. Some messages include racial comments, plans to remove him from projects, and even orders to delete digital logs. Gasps filled the room again. Malik stood slowly. He looked around the room, then said in a quiet voice, "I didn't come here to prove how smart I am. I came here because I didn't want to be silent anymore. I was nearly destroyed, not by one mistake, but by people who thought I wouldn't fight back." He paused, then looked at the judge. "And now, the truth is in your hands." Suddenly, Mr. Lane, the prosecutor, stood up. His face was red. His hands shook slightly. "Your Honor, I would like to pause this trial. We need to investigate this new evidence, and I want to request an internal review of the company's involvement." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Is that a formal motion?" Mr. Lane nodded. "Yes, sir. I believe something bigger is happening here." The courtroom buzzed again. The judge called for a short break. As everyone stood, Malik stepped outside for a breath of air. Outside the courthouse, a reporter ran to him. "Mr. Johnson, just one question. How did you learn all this legal work on your own?" Malik looked at the camera for the first time. "I read, I studied, and I remembered what it felt like when no one stood up for me. That's when I decided I'd stand up for myself, and maybe for others too. The clip aired within the hour, and it went viral. People from all over began posting online. Some said he was a hero, some said he was a symbol, others said, finally, someone is showing the system can be challenged. Online comments. He's teaching us more than any law book. I cried watching him speak. That's real strength. This man is changing how we see justice. Back in court after break, the judge returned. His voice was steady but heavy. I have reviewed enough of the new evidence to say this. There is reason to believe Mr. Johnson was unfairly accused. This trial is no longer about guilt. It's about uncovering the full truth. He turned to Mr. Lane. You will work with Mr. Johnson to identify everyone involved in this false accusation. Then he looked at Malik. And Mr. Johnson, this court recognizes your bravery. You may not wear a lawyer's robe, but today you showed more courage than many who do. The courtroom clapped, softly at first, then louder. Even the judge didn't stop them this time. That night Malik sat alone at home. The lights were off. He didn't celebrate. He didn't smile wide. He simply stared out the window, because deep down, he knew this wasn't the end. It was just the turning point. People would expect more now. People would come to him for help, and he wasn't sure he was ready. But he was willing. By now, the whole country knew Malik Johnson's name. TV stations were calling him the man who beat the system. Social media was flooded with posts. Students, lawyers, even teachers were sharing his story. But inside the company that tried to destroy him, panic had started. Inside the company headquarters, emails were flying. Emergency meetings were called. People whispered in hallways. The CEO sat with the legal team. His voice was sharp. How did this happen? We told you to handle it quietly. The lawyers were sweating. Sir, we thought he'd give up. We didn't know he'd come this far. Someone knocked at the door. It was the head of HR. Sir, we just got a letter. It's from the court. They're requesting all internal messages, emails, and security footage. The CEO froze. He knew exactly what they'd find in those emails. Racism, lies, a planned setup. He slammed his fist on the table. Get rid of whatever you can, now! But it was too late. Back at the courthouse, Malik arrived in his usual calm way. No lawyer, no crowd. Just him and his folder. But this time, something was different. The prosecutor, Mr. Lane, walked over to him before court started. His voice was lower now, less proud. Mr. Johnson, I owe you an apology. Malik looked surprised. Mr. Lane continued. I treated you like you were less. I didn't look deeper, but you opened my eyes. You didn't just defend yourself. You exposed something bigger. Malik nodded. He didn't say much, just one sentence. The truth always shows itself, Mr. Lane, sooner or later. Inside the courtroom, the judge entered with firm steps. Court is now in session. Today we will review the company's response. The bailiff handed over a thick folder. The judge opened it. He began to read aloud. Emails discussing Malik's removal, messages making fun of his background, instructions to delete records, a note calling him too street to lead a team. Gasps echoed through the room. Some people covered their mouths, others stared in disbelief. Even Mr. Lane looked shocked. The judge slammed the folder shut. He turned to Malik. Mr. Johnson, based on this, it is clear. You were set up by a group of people who feared your success. This wasn't just injustice, this was a coordinated attack. Then the judge faced the courtroom. The